Not here. I'll be checking.
1, 2, 3.
My name is Tom Randa. Currently, I'm the executive director at the Good Neighbor Community Center in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I grew up in Kenya until I was about 18 years old. For beginners, I'll talk a lot about my mom because she really put me where I am today because of all the sacrifices that she went through. I remember she had to go back to college when my sister and I were really young. So she endured the college years, made sure that she got her education, and then came back. We moved to the cities, and it starts in a really small house, a single room house. The living room is right there, the bedroom is right there. I mean, everything you can think of except for the toilet and bathroom was all in that room. I remember sharing the same bed with my sister for so many years. I remember that we used to sleep next to my parents because we are sleeping in one corner, my parents are sleeping on another corner, and then we have the living room right there. We have the couches in front of the beds, and then a small kitchen on the side. Really not so much to call our own. That's about the time my dad started coming back to church as well. He's a musician, so he started teaching the choir, and I got interested in music at that point. My sister got interested in music. I know we went to the studio when I was about 10 years old. That's about the time I remember starting to record music and stuff like that. I stayed in the church because of the kind of faith my mom had, the kind of dedication she had. Growing up in school, I remember the first 3 years in primary school, and the teacher we got was a reverend from one of the Sunday churches. In the afternoons, he had to go do his other job, and he spent the morning with us. My class fell behind. When we were going to 4th grade, nobody wanted to take our class because we were terrible. That's the first time I remember my mom making the first sacrifice. She said, my son is in that class. I'm gonna have to take that class if I want him to succeed. So that's one of the first sacrifices she did, and she took us in, and I know all my classmates do appreciate her because she did a wonderful job with us from 4th grade to 8th grade, and then most of us ended up in really good school, good public schools. Other sacrifices I can remember her doing for me was when I was really hungry, she would say something like, "You know what, I ate at school. You should have my food over here because I am full. I'm too full. I ate too much." Only to realize later on that she was just sacrificing her food so that I could have a full stomach. And I can remember a day that we were hungry because she made sure that we ate despite the lack of money that we had. At that point, she was not making a whole much. She was a teacher, so she would make maybe after all the taxes and all the loans were taken out, she would bring home about $300 for the month. And that's what we all survived with. It was the four of us, my dad, my sister, and my mom. So the four of us would survive with about $300 a month. That kind of motivated me to say, I want to do something back to my mom. And I told her, when I grow up, I want to work so hard in school, maybe go for further education, and I want to go to the United States. It's everybody's dream in Kenya to come to the United States, get a better education, make some money, send it back home, and then just give them a better education. So that was my dream. And she believed in me, and she told me, you know what, if you study hard, you will get it. I can remember that my dad was not on the same page with me when it came to that as well. So what my mom did was she found a friend that used to be a family friend when they were growing up. He worked as, I think he still works as a fisherman in Seattle. So he said, I have a son who's really interested in going to the United States. Can you help him out? So he said, you know what, I can help you with the paperwork. You fill it out, drop it off. I can, drop it off at the school and I go back to work and, we can go, he can come stay with me until he's stable and stuff like that. So it looked really good. All we had to do now was raise the money, and we did all the applications, sent in everything. We were applying to Bellevue Community College. I was done with high school. I was getting ready to come to the United States, even though everything was not ready. But I did everything I could, like get passports, get all the necessary documents. So when the letter came, kind of gives you the permission to go to the embassy so you can get your visa. When I got that, my mom now tried to reach out to a gentleman who was helping us. And when he realized that I was going to be another responsibility, he stopped communicating. We didn't know what happened. So here I am, I'm ready to go to the United States, and The person that was supposed to host me is not ready to host me anymore. But my mom said, you know what, I think you can do this. We know the school you're going to, you've been accepted. So something will work out. So we had a fundraiser, and most of my family came. The church in Nakuru, Kenya, where I grew up, came. I can remember when we were counting the money after the fundraiser, everybody else from the community gave us, when we counted, it was about $600 US dollars. But looking at an air ticket, looking at a place to rent, 600 was not going to be enough. So, and tuition on top of that, I still didn't have that. I mean, it was a community college, but you still have to pay a little bit. So what I ended up doing was, what my mom ended up doing was that she took a loan. She sold the property. We had a farm. She ended up selling that. She was a teacher and also took a loan. And I mean, she gave everything that she had so that I could come to the US. So I'm leaving and I'm coming to a place that I know there's nobody waiting for me, and I have to figure things out. School was supposed to start in January, and I left Kenya around November. I booked my ticket to the wrong state. I was supposed to go to Washington State. I ended up in Washington, DC, just because I was super excited that I'm coming to the US, and it didn't make any difference. There's a Washington in front of it. That's where I'm going. So I ended up in Washington, D.C. I think it was in 2000, around November 10th or 11th. So I'm trying to get the taxi driver to take me to the school where I was supposed to, and the taxi driver is trying to tell me, I think you're on the wrong side of the country. You need to maybe get another ticket, fly over to Washington State. And I'm like, that's not an option because I don't have much. I think by the time I was done, there was maybe $600 in my pocket. I had to figure out how to get across the state and get a place to live for the 2 months before school started, maybe a month and a half before school started. So I spent another extra week traveling across the state from Washington to Washington State, and I arrived on a Friday morning in Washington State, and I was maybe an hour away from actually where I was supposed to go to. So I called the taxi and they're like, you sure you want to take a taxi to this place? I'm like, I don't know what else to do because I need to go to these places. I have a few friends that my dad wrote their names down and their addresses. They had participated in Kenya in some evangelism crusades, we call them. So I said, take me to a few of these places, see if they can remember my dad. So we went to those places around 3 p.m. We're like, no, they don't live there anymore. Some of them are like, do you want me to call the police? They can kind of take care of you. I'm like, no, I can figure things out. The sun started going down, and then I'm like, this is not working out. So what am I going to do? And then I eventually said, you know what, I'm going to fall back to what I know. I know that if I go to church, I was raised as an Adventist. I know if I go to church, somebody may help me. And I'm sure they probably have Vespers. It's a Friday evening. So I went to Bellevue SDA Church, and there was nobody there. And so I told the taxi driver, you can drop me off here. I'll figure things out. Thank you for your assistance. As I was getting comfortable for the night, somebody was actually working on the roof. His name is Art Bingman. And he comes down and he says, are you okay? I saw the taxi leaving. So I explained to him what had happened. And he's like, you know what, get in my truck. We're going to go spend the night in my house. We'll figure things out tomorrow. We can bring you back to this church. Or I go to a different one, Kirkland SDA Church. So that's where we actually ended up going. Instead of going to Bellevue Church, we ended up in Kirkland SDA Church. And he told them my story. I've met some really wonderful people. And they really worked hard to make sure that I got a Christian education. I was supposed to go to Bellevue Community College, but Kirkland and Bellevue made it possible for me to come to Union College. A few months ago when I was communicating with him, he was talking to me about a family that was in Kenya doing some mission work, and then he put something on the side saying, do you remember these people? They sold their property, and some of the proceedings that they got from that, they put it toward your education. And I'm like, I didn't know people did that for me. I know there was some money coming from the church, but I didn't know some people really did that. Shows me some of the sacrifice that they also did for me to be able to come to Union College. So I'm done with college. Now it's the struggles of real life. By that time, I had met my wife, we were engaged. I got engaged my senior year. And so now I'm thinking, okay, what am I gonna do? I need to get a job, or do I need to go back home in Kenya? And then I'm like, no, my wife is from here. She'll be too far. I'm already used to being by myself. So I said, you know what? I'll make the sacrifice. I'll stay with her here. And considering what I was going back to in Kenya, it made sense to stay here, then support my family back home. So we got married in 2006, and now I'm a college graduate looking for work. And my previous boss, who's my mentor as well on my job, talked to me and she said, oh, I've seen you've been working on the Allen Chapel website. You've been uploading sermons and the website looks really nice. But at the Good Neighbor Center, we are having a problem because our website is kind of old. It needs to be updated. And I said, I could do that. A week or two later, she calls me and tells me, you need to come in for a job interview. All she talked about mostly from that interview was the website. And I'm like, website? IT work? Oh, I can do that. I graduated with computer information systems and business administration. Oh, I can do that. That is how I ended up at the Good Neighbor Community Center. And then around 2012, when she was not graduating, but retiring, she asked me to take over for her position. And of course, she was on the same page with our board, which also ended up asking me to take the job. And that's basically how I found myself working at the Good Neighbor Community Center. I received so much from people. Today, when I have the chance to help people in the community, I remember all the sacrifices that people made, all the things that they gave to me without even asking any questions. And the fact that I'm able to do that today and also get paid while doing it, which is even an extra benefit towards that. So the kind of lives we touch every day at the Good Neighbor Community Center puts me in a position where I feel like I am now able to make a difference in somebody's life.